All right. So thank you everybody for popping into a call at 7 o'clock on a beautiful afternoon. I have a prepared script, so bear with me here. I'll try to move quickly. Basically, thank you all for making the time for this either again or for the first time. And I will try not to be too talky. But your time and efforts do continue to enhance our understanding of conditions in the watershed. That is the whole point of this. It's terrific to do the outreach and education, and isn't this fun we play in our streams? But it's more important that we learn what's happening on those streams so that we can take better care of the land that is shedding water into those streams. And the state of Vermont actually does take that very seriously. They factor our data and our results into their planning for our watershed. And most of you already know that a watershed is basically a geographic, three-dimensional basin, and the tops of your mountains and hills are the ridge line that forms the top of the basin. And anytime it rains or the snow melts, it flows down the slopes of the basin into whatever water bodies at the bottom, whether that's a little trickle or feeding into a stream or into a river and eventually into the ocean. So we are part of the Black River watershed, and just over the ridge in Plymouth up on 100, that's when you start getting into the Ottauquechee Basin, and both of those together form what's called Basin 10. They number them around the state, so because every 5 years they go around, they cycle through all the different basins for planning purposes, and every 5 years they make it back around to each basin. And our basin drains to the Connecticut River, which drains to the Long Island Sound. So we actually are a pretty important site of the state, even if you know people on Lake Champlain who would beg to differ. So let's see, oh, Sharon's coming back. There we go. So essentially, in 2012, I started collecting samples with just a handful of volunteers. We were spread out over maybe 11 sites in Springfield and Wethersfield. After Tropical Storm Irene really re-landscaped everything. And while that number of sites changes annually, this year we've got 36 stream and river sites. Thanks to all of you people. We're going to be adding, let's see, we've got 8 lakes and ponds that are going to be looked at. We're going to have 6 swimming holes again this year, but of those 6 swimming holes, we dropped off 2 and we're adding 2. So that'll be a whole nother round of bottle sampling and volunteers. Let me see, I had a nifty little slideshow set up here, and we're gonna start that in 1 second if I can remember how to share my screen. Minimize this thing and minimize that thing. And hang on, I'm going back and forth. I feel like Marty Feldman with my eyes going in every direction. All right, share the screen. Where are you? There it is. Hey, Kevin.
Okay.
All right.
I had to update my my Zoom on my computer.
Gotta love it. So just a heads up, Sharon, I know you dropped off and you're back on, and Kevin is just recently on. We are recording so that I can use this as training for folks. Okay, so can everybody, yeah, you can all see my little, whoops, I don't want to do that. That is my son. Let's see if I can also pull up the slideshow so that I can move to the next slide as needed. There we are. So can you see just my kiddo, or can you see all the text behind it?
Just the kiddo.
Awesome. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so and that basin plan, because the state of Vermont does the basin planning every 5 years for each basin, but ours was just finished in 2023. And if anyone is interested in that, I can send you a link to that. Let's see. And for anybody who's there's 2 different types of dipping that we do. One is those state bottles, oh, I don't even have them in here. Of course not. They're the tubes that are going to end up going to the state of Vermont's La Rosa Partnership Program, also called LPP, just for short. So if you see an email coming to you with LPP or La Rosa or lab sites, that means you've got bottles that are going to be going to the state lab. The other ones, I'm calling them pre-screening sites. And for those of you who are familiar with that, it'll be similar to what you've done before, but it'll be more streamlined, and you won't have to run around with empty gelato jars to fill with water. And the pre-screening ones we use to essentially check a site to see if it has a chronic problem or just any kind of a recurring high number on any of the parameters that we're looking at, to see if the state of Vermont might want to go back and themselves take a closer look or add it to the next year's sampling for the lab. So bumping it up to the next level of testing. So we've got the two different types. And so anybody who's got state lab bottle sites, we'll be doing a follow-up training right after this shorter bit. So there'll be a handful of you folks to hang on that will be invited to hang in there and stick with us for the next round of training here. But on to the meat and potatoes. So our dipping is done every 2 weeks, and I think I just sent out the calendar. It would be ideal if you could pick one of those 2 weekend days to collect your samples so that we can more easily navigate pickup and other logistical coordination. The state of Vermont will be picking up from my porch the Tuesday after those weekends. So if, oh my gosh, I'm going to be away that weekend, but you can dip on Monday, that's great, as long as we can get the samples to me. If you can dip it like the Thursday or Friday before, that'll work too. That's more of an issue for the lab sites, the folks who have lab bottles, less of an issue for folks with pre-screening sites. I'm just trying to keep the work sort of contained to maybe a 4-day Friday through Monday, because I have a whole lot of other stuff going on. So let's see. But we will make this work. Sometimes it has worked out well where, one person's going to be dipping on a Friday, but is going to be up in Ludlow on Saturday, and they can pick up bottles to bring back to Springfield or something like that, or can cover each other's sites. That sometimes has worked out very well in the past. So let's see, the very first thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is that safety is my top priority for you all. This is a picture of Armando a few years back with an unhappy face because I was taking a picture to show that he was not being safe, or as safe as I wanted. He did not wear the shoes that I wanted him to wear. Those had very, very little grip on the bottom of them, very little tread, and he did slip in up to his ankles in what would have been very deep water. I would have had to go fish him out. So that was he's going to be my poster boy for safety first, please. If you get to your site and there's been rain and there's mud, it's slippery, the rocks are covered in something, or it smells odd. We actually had a situation where someone's site was under a bridge or just above a bridge, and there was someone living under the bridge at the time, and they were just not feeling comfortable going down there by themselves. So we went back the next day and everything was fine. But be your best judge of safety and make sure that you're comfortable. If you notice, oh boy, there's poison parsnip here or poison ivy or anything, the river site has changed and you're unsure of your footing, anything like that, give me a holler, text me, and we'll go back another day, or we'll just skip that one completely if we have to. Thorny plants. I had one person who always brought loppers and heavy duty work gloves because there was some like blackberry vines that just kept growing into their path to get to the water. So just be mindful of that too. If you're not feeling well or you've recently had an injury or an illness, let's see if we can help cover your site for you or get a wingman, get a buddy for you. So we will make it work. Let's see. So the next slide I have a few of them. I encourage everybody to, when you first get to your site for the season, if you're a returning dipper, a veteran dipper, or it's your first time at this site, really take a few moments to look around and absorb it. Even like every time you go, take a good breath, smell what's going on, make sure it smells normal. You don't smell like fuel oil or sewage or something like that. Make a note of anything interesting that you see or hear or smell. I had somebody make notes. Lane, actually, Colin, your brother Lane, you and Lane used to write notes on your field sheets about, wildlife that you saw, or someone else would always write about the different birds she could hear. Anything special you note about your site, something you really enjoy about it. All of that stuff is really helpful. It helps me understand how much this means to people, and it also helps me convey that when I'm writing reports about this, because I do have to write a report to the state of Vermont at the end to let them know what we learned and what we discovered. So it always is nice to know what people are seeing at their sites and if they're interacting with other people, what the weather's been like, if you see dragonflies, anything like that. Whether you're out on a boat taking a sample, this is on the Connecticut River, or you're in a little tiny stream. Well, not that tiny. And I know selfies can be hard, but try to your screen sharing is paused. Why is my screen sharing paused? I don't know. Can everybody still see the screen that I'm sharing? All right, you got some happy people dipping. All right, move this window away from the shared application. Well, I'll keep going until it cuts me off, but at any rate, the stream selfies are really neat too, because then it also helps me kind of market the program as people do. They either move away or they get busy and can't participate anymore. Every now and again, I got to do a little bit of recruiting, and seeing happy faces out there doing a dip really helps people say, hey, I know that guy, or looks like she's having a good time. Maybe I want to do this too. So if you can snap a stream selfie, that'd be fun. That way I get to see you at work too. It's just a delight for me. So the next thing we try to look at is flow estimation. You guys are not going to have field sheets that you have to fill out in the field anymore. So we're going to be paying attention to the temperature of the water for you folks with just the pre-screening sites. Some of you have both, but if you have just the pre-screening site, we're going to do the temperature of the water. We're going to do the flow estimation, which we're going to get into just now. And then there's a nitrogen test with little dissolving tablets, real easy. And then time and date, and then any observations you want to make about your site. So flow is how the state looks at the concentrations of the different parameters. We're looking for the lab bottles. We're going to be looking at chloride, total nitrogen, and total phosphorus. And the flow helps them determine, I believe it's called loading. So basically the concentration, what your number is of the different levels of phosphorus or nitrogen or chloride is directly relevant to how much water is in the stream at that time. So your flow observation is pretty important. Probably 75% of the time your stream is going to be moderate. If you get there, you get comfortable looking at what you expect your stream to look like. And somebody just jumped in and I can't.
Kelly, are you scrolling through slides? Because we're still on the first slide.
Oh my gosh. You are. Okay, so something's wrong with my end. Hang on 1 minute. Move this window away from the share. Okay, so you're still looking at that. I'm going to try this. Hang on a second. All right, so I stopped sharing.
Mhm.
You still see Armando. Thank you. And you'll keep notes this year too. Good. I appreciate that. Okay, let me try this one more time with a sharing thing. Maybe I just don't know how to. Okay. I think I know what I did wrong. Hang on 1 second. We're going to do this. And I think I'm going to do it this way. And rather than clicking on the images, okay, let me try it that way. Sorry. I will try just scrolling through them rather than clicking on and opening new ones, because then I have to share each individual one. So there's this, and share. You can see Armando still, right?
Yes.
Or again. Okay.
Mhm.
How about now? Do you see happy Karen
Yes.
with her stick?
Yeah.
Ah! All right, this is my
Yes.
stream selfies gallery. Now I understand all your blank looks about what do you mean this was on the river? So these are basically people's stream selfies from last year. Just sending me a picture of themselves at work. Sometimes selfies can be difficult and challenging and you don't like to, but that's okay. Just, poke your nose into your picture if you can. Happy people doing the dip. So flow estimation. Glad you caught me before that went haywire. So yeah, 75% of your sites will probably be considered moderate. Um, if you get there and you can on your first visit there, you can pick a landmark, some kind of a static landmark, whether it's a boulder that's partly in the water, a bridge abutment, a culvert, an overhanging tree or something like that, something that you can look at every time you go and decide whether or not the water's really high up that mark, or it's very down, it's quite low or something like that. If you can use that as a benchmark rather than, I was thinking of getting something where it would be a stick with a measuring tool on it. That's more technical than anybody really needs, but getting a good sense of what the flow is like at your site in different weather um, will help you be able to evaluate it and send me a comment. On if everyone's got a cell phone, that's super. That'll be the way to do this. So when you get there, pick a landmark, a rock, a tree, a culvert, a bridge, something like that, and snap a photo and say, look, this looks pretty moderate. And get a picture of it in in perspective with the rest of the stream and say, that rock on the right, that's the one that I'm using as my landmark. So this looks moderate to me. What do you think? Um, so that what I did here was I tried to put together a few slides of low flow. In this one, you could probably, I would venture to say that this might be low flow because the person is walking out on gravel partway out. Some of these rocks in the middle of the stream are dry on top. Um, it, I'm also looking at the other bank. It might be a little bit low, but it depends on your site. Some of the things to look for would be an area that you haven't been able to walk on before is exposed. Essentially, you'll get there and you'll go, wow, this is pretty low. If it really makes an impact, like, wow, oh my goodness, then that would be considered low, I would say. If you get there and you go, it feels kind of low, and you're kind of on the fence, moderate is probably the best way to characterize it. This is Tolls Dam. This is where Mary Beth and Randy are going to be sampling again. This would be low flow. Usually the water is coursing over the front of that dam, and you can see here it's on the left side of the bridge abutment or the dam abutment. You can see the watermark it was higher even very recently, and it's gone down some. And this would also be considered probably a low flow situation because of all the exposed rock on the side. And these are the slides that the state gave us to use to kind of be a good benchmark of low. You've got a lot of exposed rock. If the majority of the bed is covered with water, it's probably moderate. If there's a good amount that's dry and you can probably walk across without getting your feet wet, that would probably be low. That looks fairly low to me too. It looks like a lot of that mossy stuff on the face of this waterfall would have been under more water than that, because there's some on the right that it looks like it should be underwater or would normally be underwater in moderate flow. So then here you go. Here's a good sense of moderate. So you've got the whole bed is covered with water from the top of this, or from this bank to that bank, but it's not up to the vegetation. It's not up to the top of the bank. So it's mostly covered and is not up to the top of the bank is your moderate. A couple more examples. Am I going too fast? Are people pretty good so far? Okay. And then you start getting into high flow. High flow is a little subjective. You get there and you go, wow, this is pretty full, like top of the bank, to the top of the bank. If you start getting up into the woods, like they said this was high flow, this bottom photo. I keep thinking this looks like flood to me because it's up into the woods a little bit, but it's up to your impression based on how many different conditions you've been to your site to see. You've got your low flow here. This one I like because it's the same stream, the same spot. So you've got your low flow. A lot of these rocks are exposed. You could actually step down here on the gravel, and this would be a high flow because it's pretty much from the top of that bank right to, I would say, the top of this bank here. So your low flow versus your high flow. So maybe a moderate flow would be, part way up. Most of this is covered. And then when you start getting into flood conditions, that's when you say, wow, and you don't want to go out there. We don't want to see you out there. The water's up over the banks, it's off into the woods, it's still pouring rain. Things don't look safe. So please don't risk yourselves out there for that. Not worth it. There's some good ways to step out. I mean, this is right in Mitch's backyard right here, so he knows his riverbank pretty darn good. He's got a couple of rocks that are pretty solid, and he steps right on that, takes his river dipping. Of course, this was last year. Things have changed a lot on 20 Mile Stream this year, a lot. So he may have to find a different spot to sample from. And then how to get your sample. I'm going to move this over here. Can you all still see the line drawing with the instructions? Is that the slide that we're at? Or are we, what slide are we looking at right now?
It just went blank.
Oh,
Yep, it's blank with the line down the center, but you
Okay.
can't make out anything.
okay. Are we back on Mitchell now?
No.
No,
Okay. How about now?
no, ma'am.
Now we
There
are.
it is.
Okay, let's try
Maybe.
this. How about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I moved it from one side. I'll move something
I'm gonna turn
different.
the volume on. Should I keep it on?
All right.
We on or off?
There we go. If you guys can still see the page of instructions with steps number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to see all the details. Are you able to zoom in, or can you email this sheet out if we need
I can do that.
to? Okay, perfect.
All right. So essentially what they want you to do is you're going to have either a little tube, a skinny little tube, or you're going to have lab bottles, or you're going to have a dipper on a stick, which is it could be anything from a Gatorade bottle to a plastic chip tube to a Nalgene fancy bottle with a cap on it. I'm in the process of buying enough of the Nalgene bottles to replace all my chip tubes on a stick, but we're working on it. But at any rate, whatever your container is, the idea is we don't want to get surface water. So if it's flowing along the surface, you don't want the mouth of your bottle to be here or your container. And if the bottom of the stream is here, you don't want to bounce against the bottom because the sediment that kicks up gets in your bottle and it's going to skew the numbers. So you want to go directly below the surface, tip it so that the current is flowing in and filling the bottle. You want to stand downstream or on shore would be best. You don't want to stand upstream because you'll kick up sediment, which will get in your bottle. So you want to go down, let it fill, and then straight up and out. So a U-shaped motion is how they term it. Wait for any if you step in, let the sediment go down, and then collect your sample. And if you have a nice hot summer, you might want to step in that stream. I don't blame you. We'll get into. Oh, I just messed that up on you. Let's see. Can you guys still see everything? Okay. We'll talk about the lab bottles and rinsing the caps of those in a minute. But what do we have here? We just have a nice, pretty stream. I don't know why. Oh, that's Aldrich Brook in North Springfield. That's a tiny little stream, and you would almost think that that's low flow. But for that tiny little stream, that's at least moderate, if not high flow for that tiny little stream, because it's usually just a little trickle through the woods. Oh, And Bill is going to be taking this site. So this is Jean from last year using our dipper stick. It's a bottle on a stick. And she went down below the surface, turned the bottle so that it's facing the current. The current is filling it, and then she'll pull that straight up and out, haul it onto shore, and get her information or samples from that bottle. And there's Armando doing it. See, that's what that Tolls Dam should look like. That's moderate flow at that dam site. Yeah, see my chip on my chip tube on that's an old pool skimmer. That's our fancy handy dandy MacGyver type tools back in my day. Oh, and then some of you will have a bucket on a rope, and you'll need to drop that down in to get your sample. With the buckets and the dipper sticks, sometimes they get dirt and dust in them. In my world, they get dog hair in them, no matter where I am. So rinsing these things out 3 times, really give it a good swirl with the water that's on site, with your stream or your river site. Just rinse it out 3 times, make sure there's no stuff in there before you collect your samples. Oh, I guess, yep. And, okay, does everybody see the nitrate testing? Awesome.
Yes.
Cool. So for the pre-screen sites, this is the only test we're going to have you do. You'll get your thermometer, but this is the only actual test that we're going to do in the field this year. Nitrogen and phosphorus are the 2 nutrients that feed algae in our waters for the most part. And in freshwater, the level of phosphorus that's in the water is what determines how much how exponentially the algae will grow, like the cyanobacteria, the phytoplankton, all that good stuff. In salt water, it's nitrogen that is what's called the limiting factor in terms of algae growth. And if you think about the Black River and the Ottauquechee feed into the Connecticut, goes all the way down to the Long Island Sound, the Long Island Sound dead zone is being caused by nitrogen problems, they believe. So they're trying to look further up into the Connecticut River watershed, both states, well, all states, but both shores, to see where that nitrogen might be coming from. So this year, rather than doing pH and phosphorus, we're going to look at nitrogen. Was somebody trying to say something? Or I might have just heard some background noise. Okay. So how these work, and on the back of that little color chart, everyone's getting a color chart, a tube, a little metallic sleeve, and number 1 and number 2 little test tabs. They push through that blister pack. And on the back of that little color chart is all the steps that I'm going to explain right now. So you don't have to worry about remembering everything. Let's see. So, okay, easy enough. So you'll fill the water, you'll fill the tube about halfway or exactly halfway to the 5 milliliter mark. And I find that if I filled it too much, if I try to pour it out, it pours out really fast because it's a narrow tube. So what I do is I either flick it like this, or actually tap it against, I either flick it with my wrist or tap it against the other hand and get a little bit of that water out, a couple of drips. If I get too much out, I can use the cap to scoop some more water from the same source and just drop in 1 or 2 drops until you get about the 5 milliliter. As close to it as you can get. And then you'll get your phone ready because you're going to need to do a timer. So you'll put in the nitrate number 1 tablet first, cap the little tube, shake it up until it dissolves. And as soon as it dissolves, take out your number 2 nitrogen, pop it through the blister pack, stick it in there, and immediately cap it and put it right into that little metallic sleeve. We're trying to protect it from UV light while it's having its chemical reaction. So you put the number 2 tablet in, stick the whole tube into the sleeve with the cap on, and then you shake, shake, shake for about 2 minutes. That's you don't have to really, you're not playing the maracas or something, but you don't want to just gently tip back and forth. Give it a good amount of shaking, because those tablets really need to break up. And then as soon as the 2 minutes are done and the tablets are dissolved, that's when you start your 5-minute timer. Keep the tube in the sleeve for that 5 minutes. You could tuck it in your pocket or set it on the ground, depending on your site and what you're comfortable with. And then in that 5 minutes, look around, see what's going on for the birds. Maybe check the temperature is a good time to do that. If you have a notepad and you want to check the temperature, that's great, write it down or be ready to text it to me. That works too. So after the 5 minutes, you want to pull that tube out and the color. Yep, I did this on a sample that I collected with another volunteer that day. So this is Connecticut River water. And I did the nitrate test and the color should turn. We hope it's between 0 and 5 would be nice, but it might get darker. One way to test it is to put the tube directly over the circles to see which one it matches with the most as closely as you can. You can take a couple of photos of it. You can take this type of photo and or this kind of photo. And text that to me and let me know what you think. If you think that's a 5 parts per million, or if it's really in between the two, you could do, pick a number that's halfway between the two, or just say, hey, I think it's between the 5 and the 20, and just send that to me as a text message, as a photo. And then you can put your unused tablets. You can empty out that bottle, maybe rinse it out real quick with river water, and then you can leave it uncapped. It's all going to come in a Ziploc bag. I'm thinking of getting a little what are they, fanny packs, belly pouches, whatever you want to call them. I'm thinking of getting some of those with the Brat logo on it, so that you guys can put all of the nitrogen testing stuff and your thermometer right in that as you're walking. You don't need the whole bag to go with you, but you do have a little orange cinch sack bag if you want to keep everything in that. But I do not need the tubes back until the end of the season. So this tube and your little color chart and your nitrogen tablets, there should be 10 in each blister pack. That should keep you going for the whole season. Just rinse out that little tube in between your visits. But once you text me the information, it'll be the date and the time. I'm sure that'll come through on the text, but and the temperature, and then flow observation and your color for your nitrate. That's all I would really need. And there's your handy dandy meat thermometer that we're using again. If you have any battery problems, give me a holler. If you lose any part or break any part of the nitrogen kit, let me know. I'll make sure to replace that for you. And the thermometer, if you've not used one of these before, you basically unclip one end, the pokey end of it, and that should activate it immediately. And then you put it down in the water. Just the metal stick goes into the water, and that will start to register the temperature. We use Fahrenheit. That's what I've been trying to do, is Fahrenheit. If you need to go back and forth or accidentally press a button, I believe it's the top button is Celsius versus Fahrenheit. If you need to backlight it, like you're going out on a really cloudy day or it's toward the end of the day, don't go out before dawn. But if you need to backlight for whatever reason, that bottom button is a little flashlight or a light bulb symbol that'll backlight the display. But you could set the metal part of the probe into the water, and the middle big button is the one that says hold. Just tap it once, leave the probe in there for like 5 seconds, and then press the hold button. You don't have to press and hold it. Just tap it once and then pick it up, and that should have that should keep the temperature registered. So you'll text me the temperature, and that's really it for those. So it's time and date, the flow observation, your nitrogen results, and your temperature. And then anything else that you want us to send me is great. A photo of your site, a photo of what you feel like the flow is, would be good. So I'm open. And any problems you might be having or anything like that, if anybody comes out and goes, what are you doing on my property? That should not happen. But every now and again, I'll get someone who'll stop by and say, what are you testing for, and who are you with? If you have not gotten a River Dipper shirt, let me know. I do still have some, and I can try to match you up, make sure you get a good size. Let's see.
Can I ask a question?
Please do. Yes.
So if you're not doing a lab site, which I believe I'm not,
Right.
You don't need to drop anything off on your porch.
Nope. You are good to go.
So it's just a text this year, no forms, no water, nothing.
You got it. Yep, no gelato jars and no forms.
Well, that's a
So
lot easier.
that's what I'm hoping will be the case. What I might end up doing, eventually, when I have the time, is to develop an online app, like a Survey 123, if you've ever used something like that, and just have it be even easier. Because then, I will have preloaded the site names. You plug in your name, pick your site name from the drop down. What is, upload a picture of your site and what's the date and the time and the temperature, and just easy peasy, like multiple choice questions, and upload a couple of pictures and you're done. Eventually I got a capacity building grant coming my way, so that might be something that I do as I hire an intern who wants to build me a couple of apps. If you know anybody, send them my way. But yeah, for the pre-screening sites, it ought to be really easy. Once you have your gear, it should keep you for the whole season. And then you just come back and visit me. I'll give you a hug and you give me all your stuff back. It's all good.
And
Or just stop by and I'll give you a hug anyway.
how are we getting our supplies for the year? It's not this coming weekend, but the following one that we start?
It is this coming weekend. I'm working on some folks. I'm going to be leaving it in, last year we had a cooler up at East Hill Road, about 8/10 of a mile up East Hill Road in Ludlow, on the right-hand side. And I see somebody in chat too, good to know, Cam. I'll talk to you about, the app building. So you could leave, I can leave samples. I can leave supply bags there if that's easy. I also have them on my front porch if that's easy, for pickup. If you guys are on your way up to the lake this weekend, great, stop and grab the bag. If I'm going to be up in Ludlow a couple times a week, I think, at least for the next foreseeable future. So I can bring them by your house and drop them on the front porch. But if you haven't gotten your sample bag yet, your equipment bag yet, and we don't have an arrangement where we're going to meet yet, give me a holler and email and we'll make that happen. And I know you need the lake one too. So, and Tyler's going to need a lake one as well. So, and Kevin, you're going to need bacteria ones, and other people are going to need bacteria ones. Cam will need bacteria ones. We'll get those. That's another session. But are there any other questions? Did I gloss over something that wasn't clear?
No, but you can drop my bag off at the East Hill property,
Who was that?
Kevin.
At the
The East Hill property by the talc.
Oh, okay. Put yours right in the big cooler right there.
That works for me.
Okay, super.
That would probably work for me too, I think, if it's the same place as I'm remembering.
Yep,
I
top of
don't-
the hill. It's a stone house on the right. And I just have it parked right on their front porch underneath the overhang.
Stone house on the right. It's not the White House that's just.
No.
Okay, so I
No.
don't know where the East Hill house is then.
Okay, so actually in the next training, I have a slide for that, but I can also send you the photo of, I used Google Maps, dropped my little guy and took a quick picture of, this is the house, top of East Hill Road. But basically 8/10 of a mile up, you're going to pass all these signs for Magris Talc or Imerys Talc, or I think it all says Magris Talc now. So basically up the Talc Mining Road, literally 8/10 of a mile. And just you get to the top of the hill, all the forest looks like it's about to clear up. There's a nice little stone wall on the side, and that's right where you want to turn. If you miss it, you're looking at fields on your right-hand side. So it's once you've been there, it's kind of hard to miss, but it's a pretty little house. I think they use it for storage and for some training, and safety meetings and that kind of thing. But my friend Robin Riley works with Magris Talc, and she's like, yeah, use the porch. That's good. So that's where the bags will be if we don't connect on a different way to do that.
All right, hey Kelly, it's Katie. So picture, essentially, we can send a basic text from the site, picture of the flow, like I have in the past, picture of the test lab results, like you're showing on the screen now.
Yep.
Along with information as far as the text. Do you want like a headline of, say, we're doing Great Brook, so Great Brook, 2 pictures and the temperature, and then just go from there and that's it?
Yep, yeah, and just your estimation of flow if you, this feels pretty moderate to me. But yeah,
Yeah.
something in the text line so that I know who you are. And
Okay.
then which site. Hi, this is Katie. We just did Great Brook. Boom, here's the information. That'd be perfect.
Okay. And did you want a picture of the flow as well as a picture of the nitrate results, just for your own records?
Um,
Or would that blow up your phone a bit in memory space potentially?
I'm gonna say go ahead with a photo of the flow if you're not sure.
Okay.
And then we can, I could just, you tell me what you think it might be and I'll shoot you back my best guess. But picking a particular landmark, like for Great Brook, maybe across the stream is that nice lady's house and her foundation. So if
Yeah.
you maybe just use that as a good landmark, like how close to that little ledge is the stream, that kind of thing might be a good mark for you.
Okay. Yeah, no, just even asking in general, maybe giving that advice would help others too, kind of essentially
Yes.
make it
Yes.
streamlined for you.
Yep. And then let me know who you are and what your site is. That would be good too.
Fantastic.
That was in my
All right.
notes and I glossed over it for myself, but yeah,
It's all good.
I think we're good. If anybody, I think the folks I was hoping would stick around for the second portion here, the lab portion, would be Eric. I didn't see Tim in the training, but I think he's done this before. So if Eric could stick around, I didn't see Thomas. Sharon, could you stick around? And then Jim and Arnie would be great. I know you guys are old hands at this. Cam, if you want to stick around, Kevin. I think this is going to be your first time using the lab bottles. Is that right, Kevin? For 20 mile. Oh, you're muted.
I use the gelato as well as the weekly ones too. So I did twice a
Okay.
month and I did once a
Bye,
week.
Kelly.
Yeah. All right. Take care, you guys.
Yeah.
Yours is on the porch.
Yeah, we'll come get it.
Help yourself to a dipping stick too.
All
Cool.
right, thanks so much.
Yep.
Okay,
Let's
bye,
see.
Kelly.
All right. Oh, and that was Deb. Yep. Perfect. We're all set. We're good.
Okay. I
Yeah.
just gotta run down and get a charger.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Let's see.
I leave.
And then I know Dodie, I've already done a site visit with them. Bill, I've already done his. Emily, you're going to stick around, I hope. Actually, if Emily's already gone, that would be okay because she's done lab bottles before too. Kate couldn't make it tonight, so I'll send her. Is that Deb? Yes. Hi, Deb, at the bottom of my screen. All right, good deal. All right.
So are you
good
talking
deal.
about the lab bottles that I dropped off at the treatment plant in Ludlow?
No, those are the bacteria ones.
So that
and the-
bacteria. And
Yep,
then I did the larger bottles I dropped off at the cooler up in East Hill.
Yeah, and that was just
That's
like the
one.
big gelato jar.
Yes.
Okay, so this will be something different.
Okay.
And I see more in the chat. Was it basically everybody saying, yep, bye, and oh, yep, Colin's gone, that's fine. Katie's out of here, that's fine. And Emily did leave because she's already done the lab bottles. Let me see if I can't pull up my folder with. Actually, I'm gonna end no, I guess I'm not. I'll just do it all as one. Okay, so back to the dipper training. I'm gonna stop sharing. Come on. Trying to stop sharing. There we go. Okay, that's good. Now I'm gonna go back over to that. And I'm gonna be so wicked smart and I'm gonna try sharing again. We are still recording. Okay, share screen. There we go. All right. What is that? I don't need to worry about the QR code. Okay. And everybody can see the 3 bottles, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank goodness. I'm doing this right. All right. So thank you guys for sticking with me. All right. So at least one of the sites that you're going to be dipping is going to have 3 special bottles that are going to go to the environmental lab, the La Rosa lab or LPP. I'm going to try to remember to just say lab bottles. So if I email you guys about lab specific bottles, I'm going to try to remember that the subject line will say lab dippers or lab bottles or something with lab in it. So you understand that that's what that is. I have to get better at my communications. So there's 2 different big gray coolers that I have set up. And Eric, I thought myself through this again. So we've got one huge gray cooler on my front porch in Springfield, 101 Pearly Gordon Road. The other one is up at the Stone House in Ludlow, which is 8/10 of a mile up East Hill Road, just off, I think it's 103. And it's on the right-hand side. There'll be a picture in the slideshow of what it looks like when you get to the top of the hill. And inside each of those coolers, these are giant heavy-duty catering coolers. And inside each of those, I put 3 smaller coolers. So the blue capped bottle has to stay refrigerated or chilled or something. So what they're recommending, the state is recommending, is people add actual ice cubes rather than cooler packs or frozen water bottles, which is what I've been using for a few years now. So if we do the ice in a Ziploc bag with your bottles, the ice cubes will actually conform to the bottle and keep it a lot colder than just an ice pack and the bottle. So we're going to do ice in the Ziploc bag with your samples. It's important that when you're closing up your bottles, just make sure those threads are aligned correctly. The blue ones especially, they just the slightest little off kilter and it's not on snugly. So just try to be mindful of that. We have lost a few samples in the past when people have filled up and either over screwed it, like over tightened it, or it's not quite aligned and the water leaks out. So those 2 coolers are where we'll have you drop them off. And I'm figuring that inside each smaller cooler, you got three choices of where you could put your samples. Try to keep, if you find one cooler has nothing in it and another one has room in it for yours, go ahead and put yours in. The more the merrier, it'll stay colder. But you don't want to overstuff those little coolers. So if there's not quite enough room in there for one of these bottles is glass, so I don't want to snap any of them. So go ahead and just use the next cooler. But there's 3 little ones inside the bigger one, so that should help. Let's see. So you guys are going to drop your samples off in either the one on my porch or the one in Ludlow, and I'll be coordinating with the lab courier off of my front porch. So since I have to drive to Ludlow to get those samples, if we can coordinate really well via email or text, when you're going to, hey, it looks like I got time on Sunday to go get my samples. Is Sunday afternoon good for you? What time? Because I don't want to I've done this last year. I drove all the way up there at like 3 p.m, got all the samples, got home. Somebody texted me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, I just dropped off my samples. I had to go back to Ludlow. So it would be great if we could do them earlier in the day, whichever day of the weekend works, and then we'll figure out how to get them. Either I'll go up and get them or I'll send one of my kids to go at them or something. Or there might be one of you guys who's coming back through on Sunday anyway and can bring them down. The kicker with the timing on this stuff is that blue capped bottle, I have to get it here and I have to put in 2 drops of sulfuric acid into each one within 24 hours of it getting collected. So it's the acidification process that's really a timely thing. I can't just say, 4 o'clock, I missed it, I'll go get it tomorrow. Well, I got to go get that darn thing so I can put the acid in there. So communication is really key on that. And if there's any issues with, I'm not going to be able to do this until Monday, or I could do it tomorrow, but then I can't get it to the cooler. If you keep it in your fridge for a few hours until somebody can get it, we can coordinate if there's a snafu, because life happens. It does. Let's see. So we'll get into how to sample is pretty evident with the U-shaped motion. There's a little bit of a tweak to this. The glass bottle, the phosphorus one that's in the middle here, that one you don't rinse. You take the cap off. Don't touch the inside of the cap of any of these. Don't touch the mouth of any of these. And you want to plunge that in and bring it straight up. And you only want to fill it to this line. If you go a little over, that is way better than going under, because the lab can always siphon out a little bit and run their test. They can't add anything. So if it's under it, it invalidates the whole sample. So if you can get the bottom of that skin of water to touch the line, or worst case scenario, you go over a little bit, that's fine. So the glass tube, you don't rinse at all. You just go ahead and fill it. The 2 plastic tubes or bottles, I go back and forth between using the terms, I apologize. Each one you're going to want to put a little bit of water in, cap it, shake it up, and then dump it. You got to rinse each one 3 times. You don't have to fill it, to the tippy top to rinse it. You just put in, I put in maybe a 1/2 inch, shake it up a couple times to get the cap rinsed off, and then dump it. And then on your last plunge, because you can do that 3 times in the same spot. And on your last plunge through, you want to fill it to that 50 milliliter line on each one. On one of these, Bill noticed the other day, it only went up, the markings only went up to 40, or the numbers only went up to 45, but then there was a line above it. You want to go to that 50 milliliter line. Even if it doesn't have a 50 on it, you want to go up a little bit. Worst case scenario, you just overfill a little bit. Try not to fill it till it's, overflowing, but fill it at least to the 50 milliliter, maybe a smidgen over. But you definitely need to rinse these each 3 times. And that includes the cap. If you are using a bucket or a bottle on a stick, you got to rinse that 3 times as well before you even collect your samples. So you want to rinse everything 3 times except for those glass tubes. And then when you fill let's say you got a bottle on a stick, you fill it up, you dump it, you fill it up, you dump it, you fill it up, you dump it. And then you go and you get your last sample. You want to fill that bottle chock-a-block full, because when you get it back into your hand, you gotta rinse 3 times each of these little guys, then fill them, and then do your glass tube as well. So you got to have enough water in your bottle, in your bottle on a stick, to do all the rinsing and the filling. If something happens and you run out of water, you just got to go back and get more. Let me know if you do that. Like, the green cap, I had to get a new dip out of your bottle on a stick. That's not going to be a big problem if you happen to be just dipping straight into the stream. But if you've got to use the bottle on a stick, they want it all from the same exact sample. Does that make sense to everybody? Pretty much, yeah. Okay, cool. I appreciate that. So and again, if you go way over, you can just flick out a little bit. Better to have a little more water in that bottle than not enough. Let's see. Now, for quality control, the state also requests that we collect duplicate samples of these lab bottles. Not randomly, they decide where they want the duplicates to be collected from. So I think it's 10% of our sites need to have a duplicate tested at them for quality purposes. So I'm not sure which one of you has them at which time, but what I ended up doing was, oh, getting ahead of myself. These are the big gray coolers. Let's see if I have there it is. I guess that works. What I did was I put all 3 bottles for each event into one Ziploc. And if it's your time to have duplicates, it will be a separate Ziploc that says duplicates. So you'll have your regular dipper bottles and then a bag of duplicates, and they'll both be in one larger gallon size Ziploc that says event 1 with your site number on it. Like in this case, it would be BRAT NB.3.8, which is BRAT for Black River Action Team. NB for the North Branch was the name of this site, and 3.8 is how many river miles up from the mouth of that stream or river. That's how the state assigns those, and that's how they know which site we're sampling. So if you're going to have your regular ordinary bottles will have an R right in the middle of the lab the lab label. And if it's a duplicate, they highlight them in yellow. I don't know how well that's going to show up, but there's a big old D for duplicate, and they're in their own duplicate bag. And they literally want you to duplicate your entire sampling process. So you rinse whatever it is 3 times, get your glass tube, don't rinse that one at all. You do your thing, you get your samples, and then you're going to do your duplicates. So you start right from scratch with the duplicates. You rinse whatever it is 3 times, you don't rinse your glass at all. And they just want you to go through that process exactly the same both times. In case there's an issue, they might be able to say, well, maybe it's the training. Maybe Kelly didn't do a great job training this person and that needs to be revisited. Or, hey, everything's looking great and the numbers are really similar between the 2 sets of bottles. But the big thing is that when you go for your bottle on a stick, let's say, or a bucket, you've rinsed it 3 times, you've collected your regular samples, don't use that same, if there's any leftover, don't use that on your duplicate. Dump that out, go back and rinse 3 times and get ready and just do it all over again. Start from scratch. Does that make sense, everybody? All right, good deal. Good deal. Let's see. Anything else back here? No, so this will be, for example, this will be, yeah, I'm trying to think of what's on here that you guys need to worry about. You need to know what your site number is, and that's written on your bags, and it's right here on your bottles as well. This number here, the 001, that's just what number in order the state generated the labels. So that's less important for you. That's more for me. When I get your bottles, I have to set them in a rack in a certain sequence. I think it's this one here that's more relevant to you guys. Like in this case, it's a 2200235. That will tell us which event, which sampling event these bottles belong to. So event number 1's bottles, everything will look generally the same, but then it'll be just a little bit different on this number here. So if you drop a bottle or you lose a bottle, I would say just let me know. Don't go into event number 2 and collect it from that, because the number will be different and I'll have to peel the label off and it'd be a mess and the barcode won't match up. So just let me know, hey, the glass tube slipped out of my hand and it's at the bottom of the river. Okay, so we lost one. No big deal. Better to do that than to try to MacGyver it because it messes up the sequencing. There's your regular, there's your duplicate. There's yep. And so if you get up East Hill Road, you get all the way to the top. This is what you'll see is that nice stone wall on the right. That is actually a fieldstone house right there. And our little cooler is on this little porch right there. Pretty hard to miss. The toggles, if you haven't used these before, these can be a pain in the butt. They're very heavy duty rubber. So I have to pull down on them a little bit to pop them back off of these pegs. So do the best you can. I apologize, but yeah, just tugging straight off is not the most effective, but if you pull down on them and then pull them out, that seems to work well. And that's actually the last slide I had. Yep, timing is of the essence. I know that's a lot. You guys don't have to worry about the temperature, and you're not doing those little nitrate drops because we're doing the nitrogen sampling. You don't have to worry about which bottle is which, just that it's the plastic ones get rinsed 3 times, and the glass ones do not get rinsed. I think that's the biggest thing. And flow. Oh, right. After you've done all of this wonderful work and you've collected your samples and you've put it in your ice, bring a little cooler with you, or one of those, people who get like Hello Fresh deliveries or food deliveries or something to their house. They get those, it's almost like aluminum foil bubble wrap packages. You could put it right in something like that and just keep your ice right in that. But once you've got your bottles, then haul out your phone again, because there is a survey that the state, that survey 123 that the state has us do for each of these sites that are lab sites. And I think I sent around the link for how to download it. And there's a tutorial on how to use it. And the first couple times that you use it, it's a little bit funky, did I do this right? So I keep trying to log in and it's continue without logging in. That's at the bottom of the three. It's a third option down. It's faint for me, is continue without logging in. And then you basically drop down, you select your site and you fill in the information that it gives you. They want you to take an upstream site photo and then a downstream photo. And basically just filling in the drop down menus of what is the flow looking like. There's 3 different options when you're selecting the flow, obviously low, medium, or high, or flood. But whether that is base or natural flow, or if it's storm, they call it freshet, storm flow, like snow melt runoff type stuff, or rain, heavy rain can also cause high flow, or hydro. And there's very few people who I think the flow on your site is going to be affected by a hydro dam. People who have a Connecticut River site will have that whatever the flow is, it'll be hydro. But I think everybody else, it'll either be the base or natural flow or freshet. There's been some rain or snow melt. So being aware of your weather. They would love to get at least 1, if not 2, high flow events. Like you're out there toward the end of a rain, you're watching the weather, paying attention to the weather forecast. We're expecting a little bit of rain, an inch or so of rain, or nothing scary, crazy, but we're expecting some rain overnight or tomorrow. If you can plan your dip to, even if it's in the middle of the week before that dipping weekend, whatever it takes to try to make that happen. If you can go out toward the end of the rainstorm or just after it, when the rain's had a chance to really flush in whatever's going to come in from upstream and swell up your stream and just carry all the stuff, that would be a great time to get that storm sample, that high flow sample. If we don't get them, we don't get them. And don't risk yourself. If it's high flow, but geez, it looks kind of sketchy getting down there, don't risk it. And don't worry about trying to go upstream to a better site. If it's maybe 15, 20 feet, that's one thing, but don't go, quarter of a mile up. That's going to mess up the, they're very specific about like tenths of a mile, how close to a site, the samples have been taken. But if you can get a high flow sample as your dip, that's great. If you go out and you collect your dip and then it rains, don't go out again in that same period, in that same event. But just, darn, I missed it this time. I'll try to get it next time if you can, if it works. But don't collect twice in 1 2-week period, if that makes sense. But if you can get a high flow event, if you can get a high flow dip within that 2 weeks, if that works out, that would be super. And then you would just let them know in the survey 1, 2, 3 that was the case, that it was a high flow event. And then it was very likely freshet. And I've got Megan Hickey is the lady that I'm working with at La Rosa at the lab program, and I can send you her email address and her cell phone number if you have any questions, especially about the survey 1, 2, 3. She's a whiz at that. She was able to she walks me through something different every year. I always have an issue with it. So she's super helpful. And if you have any questions and you can't reach me for any reason, Megan's your go-to. Oh, I know that was a lot of stuff. If you do the survey and you're somewhere where there's no cell signal, don't worry about it. It'll save to your outbox. But just remember when you get home to check your outbox, otherwise the survey won't send. So check your outbox if you maybe didn't have good signal. I think that was everything. I should stop now. You'll have bottles for the first 4 sampling events, and then by the time you drop off your 4th, I should have 5, 6, 7, and 8 ready for you to go, labeled and ready to go. Anybody have questions, comments, concerns?
What's your target? This is Kevin. what's your target for drop-offs? It worked for me in the past because I work in Ludlow and I can sample, go to Ludlow, drop them off either at the sewer plant or at East Hill.
Mhm.
But I'm usually out of the office and I'm traveling on Sundays and Mondays. So is
Okay.
that going to work for your time frame?
Yeah, if you're able to do your dip, the lab will be picking up from me on the Tuesday after the weekends that I sent you.
Mhm.
So if you can sample in a 2-week period before that, if you know there's a high flow, I know we're gonna get some rain. I'm gonna go get it on a Wednesday, and I'll
Mhm.
just let Kelly know. We'll figure it out. I may be able to, sometimes Sharon is able to come down to Springfield. Deb
Mhm.
O'Laughlin sometimes is, oh, we were just there for the weekend. We're coming, get back down through. We'll stop and pick it up. It's a 20 to 25-minute ride for me, maybe half an hour tops. I can run up and get it. I have more flexibility now because I'm no longer working a desk job where it's 8 to 4:30. I'm punching a time clock. Um, Now I have some flexibility built into my day. I can actually take, you know what, I'm going to take an hour, I'm going to run up to Ludlow, get the samples.
Well,
Um,
you
so
had one that you had to have the acid in within 24 hours.
yeah, yep. So if you were to do, yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 app again. Yep, that's exactly right. That was probably 10 minutes ago. You asked me. Sorry, Jim. Just saw the chat. Um, Yeah, it's so that blue cap bottle, I do have to acidify within 24 hours of you getting it. If you send me a message and say, hey, Kel, now's my time, I can go do it. It's Tuesday morning. Are you cool with that? Like, yeah, as long as I can go get it or I can get someone to go get it, I'll make that work.
Okay.
So even if I have to go up after dinner or something one night and go
Okay.
fetch it. So just communication is key. Anybody else have any other questions? I figure the first dip is usually everyone's running around with their hair on fire and they're not really sure how things are working. And we're still trying to get our legs under us for the first dip, maybe even the second one. But then by the end of the season, everybody's comfortable. We have each other's back. We know who can run over here and get my sample because I'm not going to be here this week or whatnot. But I think it's going to actually be a lot easier this year because we don't have these gelato jars that everybody's filling and trying to run them down to my house. I don't have all these papers I'm trying to, collate and store and then enter the information into a spreadsheet. And it's going to be so much easier to do it all digitally, I think, this year. But if nobody has other questions, I'm good to go.
We don't actually write on the bottles, right? It's all
No,
computerized.
it is. Yep,
Through the numbering of what the event was and what we fill in on the app there.
exactly. And the app will ask you for your bottle number. And that's where and it'll show you in the training, it'll show you the label and they'll have a big red box around this is the number they want you to enter. And I think it'll only give you certain options, like you'll only it knows which ones you have available to you. And if you don't enter the right number of digits, it'll say, no, that's not right, find the right number. It'll kick it back to you, so you can't enter the wrong number. It'll keep working with you until you get the right number in there. And Tim may already have experience with that too, because you guys are going to be doing the Connecticut River site, right?
I don't think Tim's on.
No. But I think
Oh,
he's
yeah.
already done it before,
Okay.
so he may be comfortable with doing that portion of it. I'm really glad you guys are going to be doing that site together with a really long pole because just looking at how far down that is, I was nervous. So I'm glad you're going to have a wingman to do that site on the Connecticut. It's going to be a good year. I got people working from pontoon boats and boat landings and bridges, and it's going to be a cool year.
Is there a maximum photo size? Does it say the photo shouldn't be larger than 10 meg or whatever, or 5 meg or
If
whatever
it,
cameras take these days?
I don't know if it does. I've never had a problem with it. I've never had a message pop up. I think it's built to take the average photo from a cell phone. So you could also ask Megan. I mean, I'll send everybody that. Let's see. I'll just send you Megan's specific information right now while I'm thinking of it. If I can find the right page that is open. Oh my goodness. I have 2 monitors and both of them have 29 to probably 40 tabs open at any given time. It's nuts, just nuts. All right, that's not going to help me. I'll find the right email tab here and send you guys Megan's information. So, oh, there it is. Okay. And we'll just paste it in the window and send that right along. Or how about this? We have a chat function. Look at that. So feel free to copy that down if you want, copy and paste it into a document for yourself, or pop her number into your phone, Megan Hickey, LPP or lab program, however you want to put it. And just let her know which organization you're with. Kelly did a lousy job in the training. I need help. Right, I know Tyler and Sharon, we have plans on getting together. And I'll be bringing the bags up with me. So we'll see if we can't connect up, or I'll leave them at the East Hill Road house for you guys to pick up there. But Sharon, I think we're gonna meet. I'll just bring everything with me for that. And Tyler, I'm hoping that we'll meet. We'll talk about the timing. So, all right, if you guys are all set, I'm all set unless there's other questions or. All right. Good deal. If I think of something at 3 in the morning, I'll send it as an email. I won't text you. My phone sits next to my bed as my alarm clock, so try not to text me before 8 a.m. if you can help it. Especially on a Sunday.
I have a dog for an alarm clock, so
That would become the neighbor's dog in about 5 minutes flat. No, if people, that was the other thing with people dropping samples off at the house. Our bedroom is right on the porch, like right next to the porch. We're 5 feet away from that cooler. So if people are dropping samples off at, before 9 a.m. on a Sunday, the dogs, there's 3 of them, and they all go nuts and they jump on top of the couch and they're up against the door. So if you can drop samples off later than 9 on a weekend, but we'll figure something out. It's not the end of the world, and it's only every other weekend, so we can make it work. I'm just grateful for you guys all doing this, because there's no way I would ever be able to do more than a couple of sites myself. So being able to do this many with all of you guys is really awesome. So, all right.
thank you very much.
Thank you guys. I will stop the share.
Have a good night.
Thanks. You too. Enjoy the rest of your week. All right. We'll talk soon.